Oh my gosh, guys, it is April 11th. It is my birthday month, my favorite month of the year, and welcome to Cheerful Conversations. I just wanted to share some wins because I do this with my clients all the time, really just sharing some really, really great wins. And these are not really big wins, but if any of you guys have been watching my Instagram crazy posting this month. I started this about 2 years ago, and I'll shout out to Marley Williams, who kind of started this movement for me, and now it's become a trend where I dance every day for the month of April. Last year I only did 7 days, so that wasn't, it was so busy. But this year I kind of brought back, hey Patricia, I brought back the dance challenge, and so what this entails is 30 days of dancing to one song in its entirety. I've kind of shifted the rules a little bit as the years have gone on. And I then post up to a minute of a snippet of that full dance video. I do have the actual dance videos available for you to see so that you know that I'm legitimately doing it. But for 30 days, I'm posting a snippet of a song on social media where I know that I can't do it on Facebook because they'll kick me out. But they haven't stopped me on Instagram, so please don't stop because I'm making a lot of people laugh and doing a lot of crazy just videos. On Saturday, I went a little overboard and I did a video kind of emulating Risky Business Tom Cruise, shirt with no pants, like the whole spiel. So if you haven't checked that out, go onto Instagram. I'm also posting it on Facebook and Twitter just so that you have access to it, but it's mostly housed on Instagram. But I just hit, and I'm not really big on Instagram, or haven't really been until recently, but I just hit my 1,000th follower on Instagram, and she actually messaged me to say that she made it happen, so I wanted to reach out to her. I can't pull it up right now, I'm too frazzled. But, so basically, today's day 11, and I just did the day 11 video with my guest host watching me act like an idiot, and so I'm a little bit hot, a little bit out of breath, but that's how it is. So I'll be posting that video later today, so make sure you check it out. If you haven't followed me on Instagram just so that you can see all the videos, go do that, or friend me on Facebook, whatever. But I just wanted to share that that's just a fun win to just hit 1,000 followers on Instagram. It's not a lot, but hey, you got to get there at some point, and I'm glad to have that now. So before I bring on my guest co-host, let's do the intro, shall we? And I have to still put on my headphones before she talks, because otherwise there will be some mad skipping. So hold on one second. This is improving shows at their finest. Oh crap, I didn't do my... There's just so much going on right now, and I'm not quite ready. Hold on one second. Trudi, can you hear me?
I can.
Yes! Welcome everyone to Cheerful Conversations episode 7. Yay! We're making strides. I am here with my guest co-host for the day, Trudi Lebron. It's so amazing to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yay! So today, our theme, we're gonna spin this show a little bit towards entrepreneurs and the entrepreneurship side of the house, because obviously that's what we are, and we're both kind of passionate about it. So this one's dedicated to all of you peeps out there who are who geek out on entrepreneurship, and we're gonna actually talk more about social entrepreneurship and social change, because that's a topic that Trudi is really, really passionate about. I'm really excited about it as well, and so we're gonna have that theme for the show today. Before we get started, I like to kind of allow everybody who is on, who's watching either on Facebook Live or seeing it on YouTube later or anything like that, just to get a sense of my co-host and just how we met and all of that. So Trudi, in a quick minute, can you just share with everybody who you are, what you're up to, and what do you do?
Sure. So I'm a coach, a entrepreneur, a podcaster, strategist, many, many things. On the East Coast, I live in Connecticut, and my work really centers on how people can use their business to create change in the world through their business outcomes, and then inside of their business and for the people that they work with. So, and we'll talk more about that. So I'm also a mom and a partner and a sister and friend and all of those things. So I have a really, really full life. We met in a karaoke room
Yes!
at WDS 2 years ago. So it's April. So it's almost 2 years ago, for the opening party, I believe. Yeah, it was the opening party at World Domination Summit, 2 years ago in a karaoke bar. We probably spent hours.
Yeah, and it was so funny because I know that there was an actual karaoke meetup, but I think it was right before.
Yeah, it wasn't that.
It was a Thursday night. It was very impromptu. We were at this. Was it called Punch Bowl Social or something?
Yeah,
like that
that's exactly what it's called.
Punch Bowl
great
Social. Shout out over there. I actually have a friend who I met on the plane who works there, so hopefully I'll try to tag him and let him know that I mentioned him. But or he worked there last year, and we got to see each other a whole year later because I met him 2 years ago during the World Domination Summit 2016 when we met each other. And it was funny because I think all of these people kind of stumbled upon this room. And
yeah, that's exactly what happened.
We just all started playing songs, and I remember Trudy being the one who was probably just as outrageous and passionate about singing and just being in there singing in front of a bunch of random strangers that just came together, and I was we were both woo, yelling at each other, totally cheering each other on. And yeah, I think, too, we did, from that, it's we stayed in touch. I remember talking to you after that night, we were both, I guess, late leaving, or I was leaving, or something like that, and we exchanged contact information. We got connected on Facebook eventually. We actually got to see each other last year again. You were at you were there, right?
Yeah, we were both at WDS, but I also came to see you when your book launched in LA.
Yeah, so that was maybe
I happened to be out there.
Yeah, and that was actually probably about a year ago-ish.
Yeah.
Or it was in May. Yeah. And so
around this time last year, yeah.
Yeah, so we got to spend some time together and go get some drinks and just connect, both in a location. I guess so we've only seen each other in places where we don't live. So I need to come out
very true.
I need to come out to Connecticut at some point.
Well, you're in Chicago, right?
Yes.
I will be in Chicago in August. I just found out today. Yeah.
Okay. We'll talk about that afterwards.
I will tell you all about that. Yeah.
Yay. So so it's just crazy again, how these lifelong friendships can come. And, we have another connection. We both worked with, and I don't know if you're still working with her, but we both worked with the same business coach. So Emily Utter, I'll give a shout out to her because I haven't talked to her in a while.
Emily. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's there's just so many common paths, and, having just a lot of passions and a lot of, we just have a lot of alignment in our lives, which I love. Is just, it's amazing. So, okay, so we covered what do you do, and we covered how we met. So the other thing that I like to ask everybody, and it's got to be not work related, but what is it that you geek out on? What
Oh my God. So it's very related to the reason I'll be in Chicago, actually.
Okay.
So I am a nerd. I am a big nerd about superhero movies and movies in general. If I could go to the movies every week, I would be the happiest person, and I'm on a mission to get there. But I'm really, really into science fiction and also Harry Potter type things. So as everybody in the world knows, Black Panther recently came out. And so I've seen it about 5 times.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I haven't seen it yet, so don't hate me.
Oh my God. Okay, we'll have to work on that.
Yeah, you definitely need to work on that.
So I've seen it a bunch of times. Infinity Wars is about to come out. I'll see it the day before it opens for the preview night. So I am actually, me and 2 other friends of mine have released a podcast all about, inspired by Black Panther. Mm-hmm. We talk about Black Panther for the first 5 or 6 episodes, and it continues to be, there's so much in that movie that we're not just like talking about the movie forever, but there's so much in that movie that spins off into other like real world things. So we're kind of connecting that through all of these other kind of themes. I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it or who haven't, kind of checked out any of the episodes or the podcast. But, so in Chicago in August, you've heard of Comic-Con,
Yeah.
right? So a group of people in Chicago are putting together the first ever WakandaCon, and so Wakanda is the place that folks. Yeah. So I will be there with my colleagues, and we will be recording a live, doing some live podcasting from WakandaCon. Yeah.
Awesome. See, and this is what I love about just what you're sharing and just about entrepreneurship in general is because, it's funny because I ask people, like, what do you geek out on? And I want to say, like, not work related, but the people that I think, like, are really just successful at just having an amazing business are the people who take the things that they geek out on and weave it into their businesses.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
it's so much of what I do doesn't feel like work. And that, like, no, we're not selling anything. We're not paying. I mean, people think podcasts, like, that's so work. And it's work. I edit the podcast, like, we plan for the podcast and spend time doing it. But it's a fun project. It's a passion project.
Absolutely,
so.
Absolutely. And, it's like I'm using improv right now as, it's a business expense. I'm learning how to speak better as a coach. I'm learning life lessons from improv that I can apply to my clients. So it's just fun to figure out, like, how do I weave that in to my business? Yeah. And I think even like a couple years ago, I did like a group fitness, I organized a race, and just got a bunch of people together that wanted to be fit. And, the team was the Cheerful 9 team, so it was like always trying to figure out how to weave the stuff that you're passionate about into the work you do. And I'm sure that we'll talk about that more as we dive into this, social entrepreneurship, concept a little bit deeper. I think there's one more thing. Yes. The other last thing that I like to do is ask us random icebreaker questions. So I don't know what it is ahead of time, but it's from my Vulnerability is Sexy card game. Mm-hmm. So are you ready for a random question?
I'm ready. Yeah, bring it on.
Okay. So here's the question. When you look in the mirror, what do you like about what you see?
Oh, man. Wow. I think that, so I have two answers to that. Right?
Okay.
So one is more of a deeper kind of like just the person that I've grown into. I have had, a big variety of experiences in my life. I grew up in an inner city. Both of my parents worked, but, we were working class family. I was a teen mom. I dropped out of high school. Well, actually, let me unsay that. I left high school and I unschooled. I homeschooled myself. So I didn't drop out and step away from my education. But I didn't have a lot of the experiences that a lot of people had as they, kind of go through high school. And I had a lot of, there was just a lot of growing that I had to do. So when I look in the mirror today and kind of see just who I am, someone who I'm completely self-employed. I've been completely self-employed for over a year. I've helped people start businesses and leave their jobs. I get messages from people every day who tell me that I have inspired them and helped them and motivated them. So I'm just really proud of who I've become, and I see that today when I look in the mirror. The other thing I see, which is not as deep, is my teeth. So I invested in some braces and some, and that's a big expense, but that my family couldn't afford that when I was younger. And one of the things that I always wanted to do when I grew up and had some money, that I was going to get braces and be more confident. I didn't have any pictures of myself smiling, with an open, a big broad smile. None at all. They just don't exist. I would always kind of, be like that. And so now, that's the more vain answer, but it's true. It's an honest, if there's something that, that you want to, I hate to use the word fix, but just, do for yourself. If there's something that you want to do for yourself that will make you more confident, I say do it. If you can do it.
100%. And it's really interesting that you share that, because I feel like, when sometimes people, and I'll be totally honest, like when I was younger, I was like, why would anybody want to fix themselves? They should love themselves as who they are and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then I had kids. And I was like, oh, okay. I know why you'd want to fix yourself. And so, there's definitely some damage that my children have done to my body. And I think that if you're doing it from a place of, not necessarily like filling a void per se to, you're doing it because it's something that's going to make you happy, feel more confident with you. Yeah. Not that to say that like anything with you is wrong, and not using that as an excuse of like, I'm going to elect to make adjustments to my appearance just because, I'm lacking something, but to just say like that. Yeah. But coming from the perspective of like, this is going to make me happier. I have the means to do it, right? You don't want to invest in that if you're like not in a place to, but just to say like, it's going to make me feel happier. It's going, and I, from that place of self-love, I think that it's totally okay. Absolutely. So, and of course, I'm just a lot less judgmental than I used to be when I was younger, but it's just, you just don't know when you're young. So, you don't. So I love that. I love that, you've got the, just kind of seeing like how far you've come when you look in the mirror. I think too, if I was to answer this question, I think about, even just thinking about how I would look at myself in the mirror 5 years ago. And, I was a stressed out piece of work. And the fact that I see myself, stepping into, outside of my comfort zone and being able to push the boundaries of what I think I'm capable of doing and, shame, maybe I've got shame and fear on the inside, but being able to like just click send on like that crazy freaking video or that crazy picture that it's like, oh, I don't want to share that with people because I'm afraid of the way that people would judge me. And to be able to look at myself in the mirror and say like, I know I'm not perfect and I'm totally okay with it. Whereas before it was like, I have to be perfect and I have to put on this front. The fact that I can look at myself and embrace all of the insecurities and all of that about myself now in comparison to 5 years later, that's probably what I would like most about what I see about myself. Yeah. So I love it. I love your shares. So anyways, let's go and talk a little bit more about this entrepreneurship thing. So I hear this term social entrepreneurship and I have a sense of, how I would define it. And I know a lot of people talk about it, but since this is like all your business, everything that you're passionate about, I think one of the big questions that people would tend to ask, or just the first question that comes up when we talk about social entrepreneurship is, how does social entrepreneurship differ from just straight out regular entrepreneurship? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yep. So it's different in a couple ways. So the first thing is that when people start a business or when people are thinking of a business, traditional entrepreneurs are might be thinking, what can I do that fulfills my passion that I can make a lot of money from? Or some people just aren't even concerned about the passion. They're just like, what's the business opportunity? Like, where is there a business opportunity? Where is there a gap that I can fill and, that make a lot of money from or make enough money from to do X, Y, Z. It's very motivated by providing a service for financial gain. Social entrepreneurs have a different approach. They measure the success of business by their financial gain and the social impact that is created as a result of their business. So they're thinking, what can I do that is gonna maybe allow me to live this certain life and, bring me a certain financial goal, but also is socially responsible or environmentally friendly or creates, some good outcomes for people and like the lives of certain people. So there's this extra layer of critical consciousness that goes into the way that you approach business, the way that you plan for your business, what you sell, how you do business. Like, it really runs through all of the elements of your business. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that, the big key too is, what is the cause or the service around which your business is run? I think, there's the piece of people who, provide some sort of product or some sort of service and that's great. But if it is impacting, for the better of humankind or the environment or or whatnot. There's like actual passion about like creating a movement that inspires positive change. I think that's great. And I think one of, a few episodes ago, I was talking about, social entrepreneurs who had businesses that were doing really, really great things. Like there was one, I don't remember which episode that was, but there was like a guy who was creating these toothbrushes out of bamboo and, because they're more biodegradable or whatnot instead of the plastic, which is, it could be as simple as that. I think that any coach who is trying to help people improve their lives in whatever capacity, that I would consider that a more social entrepreneur. What are some other examples that we can think of?
Yeah, so I can give a few. There's a few things that really kind of make the difference between someone who is a social entrepreneur, or let's not think of like the entrepreneur side. Let's think of the business, the business itself. Is this a social impact business or is it a traditional business, right? Mm-hmm. Because we can look at a traditional business, like Nike, right? Nike could have an outreach program and donate money to a community, but that doesn't mean that Nike itself is a social impact business. That's not part of its structure.
Yeah.
What is the difference in a social impact business is that it's operating in one of kind of three ways. The first way is that the product that they produce is actually improving the world in some way. So the example that you just gave of the bamboo toothbrushes, that's a perfect example of that. So the product or service itself is either environmentally friendly, or you think solar panels and Tom's shoes, right? The product itself. The other way that it could be, and I've seen a couple of coaches who actually do this, is that a portion of, so maybe their service is a pretty standard service or product, but a portion of all of their earnings go to a particular charity. So, and that is a non-negotiable part of their business. It's not something that they do when they get some extra money, but that that there's a decision that's made that a certain percentage of all of our revenue goes to a product or service. And then the other thing is the other way that a social, or that a business can be a social enterprise, is that there's something in the business operations, like the way the business is run. And this is more in larger businesses. If you're a solo entrepreneur, you don't have, big teams and stuff and a whole bunch of like internal operations. But some places will have policies, right, where their staff get paid volunteer time. So the company will pay a total of 10 days, for example, for that employee to go and volunteer in the community. Mm-hmm. And they don't have to take a day off to do it. And so they encourage their employees to do it. And so there's a cost to the business to do that, but it creates goodwill as part of their, as part of their mission. Mm-hmm. So those are the kinds of things that social entrepreneurs are thinking about, like, how can I create the maximum amount of good, from what I have, from what I'm creating, or within what I'm creating.
Absolutely. And I've talked about this in previous shows. I feel like it's causing this movement of me really thinking about learning a little bit more about it. But like one of the more social well-being type of concepts that I really want to dive into a little bit further is just this whole concept of mental health. And because it is my business is basically based around the power of positivity, and how can I take all of the energy, all the crazy messed up energy, not messed up, but just this crazy, like, I don't know, energetic force field that I have, that I bring with me everywhere I go, and leverage that as a way to instill more positivity in a really, really negative world. And, that's kind of my mission. It's like, how do I allow people, or give people the permission to be happier about the choices that they're making, the things that they're doing in life, and just giving some source of inspiration, even if it's small. And so that's definitely something that I feel like I'm exploring behind the scenes and trying to figure out, like, how can I make that bigger impact in my business, even though I'm, a coach and an author, just all of those things. But so that's like a topic that I'm really passionate about. And I know that you love this stuff. So like, what is the the topic or I don't know what the word is that I'm trying to look for. What is the thing that socially you want to do to impact the world?
Yeah, so my impact area, right?
Yes.
So that's kind of,
Like,
that's the way that we think of it. Yeah. So for me, there's a couple of things, but the biggest one that I really kind of center my business on is equity. So, right, it's like creating opportunities or actually a couple of ways. Helping people understand what equity is and how to really be more inclusive, build communities that are more diverse, and that honor the diversity of the people that are in their community. So there's a lot of work that goes into that, a lot of like identity work that people have to do. People have to confront the biases that they have, the messages that they've picked up over their life. So I really help people to kind of do that. So that's one of the things. The other thing that goes along with that is that I'm really interested in helping people of color just get more access to, better jobs, more income, start businesses, have more community support, be able to do things that a lot of other people do, without thinking that they have permission, right? Encouraging them, to travel more. So I'll talk a little bit about how this happens in my business, like how my business is set up as a social enterprise.
Yeah.
So I do, consulting and coaching. And as a consultant, I work with school districts and nonprofits because I also, I have a master's degree in psychology. I'm a PhD candidate in social psychology. So I have a lot of education in evaluation and data and all like the nerdy stuff. Mm-hmm. I get really nerdy about it. I love it. So I work with some school districts and nonprofits to do those kind of bigger projects. And then I work with clients one-on-one to give them really kind of step-by-step help in like starting social impact businesses. Mm-hmm. And that is pretty what in the coaching world we will call like high-end offers. Like, right, those are more expensive. It takes more of my personal time and attention to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. Because I do that work, it allows me to have other things that I do that are very low cost. And that work, in that work, I target, I provide a year-long program for women here in Hartford, Connecticut, where I'm from. And I'm in the second year now, and the program is called Be a Boss, and there's about 20 women per cohort. It's all women of color, and it's low cost. It's between $40 and $60 a month. And we work with people, we work with people on that. We want to, if someone can't pay even that, like we figure out a way if they're the right fit for the program. Mm-hmm. And so they come together once a month for 3 hours. And I feed them, we have a nice breakfast together, and it's personal development. So it's not business building work because business building requires more intensity than a 3 hour workshop a month. Yeah. But it's more personal development. So it's mindset work, it's community building, it's empowerment, it's, helping people kind of evaluate the things that they've learned about themselves, all the narratives that they're holding on to, and starting to undo those things. Mm-hmm. So I've had some women in the program who've actually gone through it 2 years now. So because I have some work that is more expensive and more in-depth, it allows me to be able to, rent a space and have a low-cost program that I don't actually need to make money from. Mm-hmm. The program can pay for itself, and that's fine. So that's kind of how that works in my business.
That's awesome. Oh, that's so great. Yeah, and I think that people don't always think about, I launched a lower cost option in my business too, because I know that coaching can be really expensive, especially if you're doing private coaching. And, it was breaking my heart to see so many people who could utilize coaching but not have the access to it because of whatever other issue. I mean, right. For people who have financial issues and are trying to figure out how to get past that, to not, to have to spend more to make those investments to change just didn't seem to make sense to me. And, there's definitely a delineation between, people who invest in private coaching versus just really having the access to personal development work. And so, that was part of this, like, I don't need to make money off of this. I obviously have business expenses that I need to pay to run this stuff, but I would rather have help a massive people in a broader sense, and be able to, and still even give them this one-on-one touch so that they can experience the power of coaching. Because I don't even think that a lot of people understand what that entails and what's involved in coaching.
They don't.
But I want people to feel like, wow, I can start seeing the difference by just allowing myself to make that, little investment in myself to make those changes. And they might not be as drastic but I think that also, coaching is a process that takes a long time. Like I'll probably have a coach for the rest of my life, because I see the power in what happens when I'm allowed to, or I give myself permission to confront all my fears and face all of the negative beliefs I have about myself. And I would rather, if my mission is to help people be happier, I don't want to necessarily limit access to it. Now, granted, it's, it's one thing to give things for free, and, sometimes I'll probably even do that because I see the value, but, of course, it's like that little bit to kind of invest in yourself to get you over that hump, to realize like what is possible, for you to accomplish as an individual. It's like, I just want that to be accessible to people. So
it's so important. It's so important to do that. And, I want to make sure that, folks who are hearing us talk about this understand that I'm not saying that you enroll someone who can afford it in high-end coaching or private coaching and like for free, right? Like I'm not saying that. I actually wouldn't do that, because the women who are in my Be a Boss program, they aren't ready to do the things that I'm asking the people to do who are in my private coaching. Like they have other work that needs to happen first, and hopefully one day, my vision for them is that many of them get to that place where they can do some of that other work. But the people who I'm working with at that level, they're investing other money in other things, right? In like business expenses and platforms, and they're traveling, like they're doing other things. And in order for them to kind of have success from the things I'm asking them to do, they need to get past certain kind of mindset challenges and just basic needs things. Like you can't be trying to like build a business if you're trying to figure out how to pay your rent. Like that's not, you can't be, if you're trying to do that, you don't need to be paying me for private coaching. Right?
I agree.
That's different. That's different stuff.
I
so
agree.
It's a different service that I'm providing for where those people are, for where that community is right now.
Absolutely. I love that. And I 100% agree and align with that. So yeah. So in terms of, thinking about, you were talking about how, equity is super important. In terms of being a part of that movement to create impact around that, if you had to kind of envision like the change that you wanted to see, like, so I guess we're doing a visioning exercise here, and maybe it might be even helpful to kind of hear some of the things that have inspired you to follow this path, right? Because for me, mental health is big, because I hit burnout, and even though I thought that I was mentally strong, like I had there was so much other stuff that I didn't realize. And, I'm looking back at my life, and people say, if you had to go through your life all again, what would you wish you had? And one of the big things is like really understanding like personal development at an early age. Like I never even knew what personal development was until I was like 30 something, like 33. Like I just always thought about from a career perspective, like professional development, how am I going to make more money? How can I be more successful in my career? And that was all that it was about. But it's like, how about who you are as a person? Like why is that conversation not happening earlier? And so it's like, I'm trying to figure out like, how do I do that now? I'm going and doing some volunteer work through my university and helping college students plan how they're going to handle life post college, when you've always had a structure growing up, and you get a little taste of being independent when you're in college, but like it's a whole different world when you graduate. Totally. And how are you going to not be afraid of that, and how are you going to feel better about and more confident about what you're going to do in the world, not just with your career, but just your life, and how are you going to keep yourself healthy, and all of those things. And so I'm doing some of these like mentorship scenarios to just be able to give them what I couldn't have
That's awesome.
Back, in the old days. But yeah, so I know. So, I mean, I guess, from your perspective, since we've got those two examples, like what is the change that you're hoping to see, I guess in the next 10 years or your lifetime or whatnot in terms of equity and all of that?
Yeah. So I would like to see a world where people have equal access to the things that they need to be able to thrive. And so what that will require is us to break down the systems that have upheld white supremacy, like upheld people having more power than people of color. And that's uncomfortable for a lot of people to kind of talk about and to hear. Mm-hmm. But the fact is that we live in a country and in a world where there have been people who have sat around tables who have thought up ways to keep people of color oppressed, like intentionally, right? Who have designed systems to be able to do that. And that was a very intentional structure. And we're not going to undo that without the same level of intentionality that it took to create it. And so we need to be brave, and we need to be brave enough to look at the issues, and we need to, we need to see kind of where they exist in our individual professions. Mm-hmm. And in the profession of coaching, which I just actually will be publishing an article later this week about this very issue. That's about, the way that we price and the way that we reach out to people, right? So I envision a world where these things aren't real, and that we can live in communities where we really are there's no pay gap, there's no gender gap, there's no economic or wealth gap for people of color and people who are of European descendants, right? Mm-hmm. That we don't have that. And that's going to take a long time to do, but I think that we can do it. I think that we're becoming more multicultural. Apryl, you said that, you do this work because of your history, you hit burnout. I come from a family that's very, very diverse. In the article that I wrote, I talk about how, my family is this mix of, rice and beans, collard greens, and ham and cabbage. Mm. For real. My mom is of European descent. She's a mix of Irish and English and Lithuanian and German. My father is a Black Latino, so his roots are from Africa. He himself was raised and lived in Puerto Rico his whole life. So I'm a biracial Latina. Ethnically, I'm Latina, and racially, I'm white and Black. And my children are even more mixed. Mm-hmm. So we literally, and we're all shades. I have sisters who are very dark. I have children who are very dark. My father is dark. My other sister's lighter than me. So we're all shades of the rainbow. So within my family, we've had every experience on the spectrum of access we have had in our family. So I've seen what this does to people. I see what oppression has done to people. I see what discrimination does to people. I've been discriminated against. I've also had lots of privilege. So this is the world that I live in. And so I've decided to dedicate my career to this work. So I think that we can do it, and I'm finding more and more people of all races who want to have the conversation, who want to kind of go there, who want to learn more about themselves and how they can help other people. So I'm just happy that I get to be able to help people in their journeys.
Yeah, 100%. I feel as generations move forward, it's just going to be more blended. I mean, who knows? Oh, yeah. My kids are, half white, half Filipino, and they're going to, what is that? Who are they going to be, partnering up with down the road, and what are their children going to be like? You just don't know. And, having everybody just kind of hit common ground. I know it's hard because there's a lot of stories and a lot of, I think sometimes what I see with people is just this idea of I worked really hard to get here. Mm-hmm. Other people have to do that too. And, I don't necessarily have the right answers, but I also know that if there's a huge disparity between, the highest, class people and, people who are in poverty, we're going to continue to just have all of these like social barriers. And not that I have, I probably have not necessarily done enough work in that area, because I think there's a lot of stuff that I'm not educated on, and, but I want to, but at the same time, it's like I'm one person, but even if I were to just make a tiny little step towards something, being more accepting of anybody, regardless of gender, race, class, whatever that is, right. That's already even just doing a little bit of work. So I think that for people who are like, I can't contribute to this movement of equality and equity or whatever, but because it's like I can't, like I have to go all in or not at all, I would totally almost disagree with that, right? It's like, it's just what can you do in your power that is on your terms. It's not like you have to give away your entire salary that you've been working for, to kind of help this change, but how could you interact with these people differently? Or how can you, how can you contribute in a way that feels comfortable to you, right?
Yeah, that's what it's about. And I think everybody needs everyone needs to work hard. Yes, absolutely. And this also isn't about like one individual person, right? This is about like communities of people, right? We can see like communities of people that have been left behind. And so, it is, I wouldn't say that it's an all or nothing kind of thing. But I would say that, it starts with you and like just kind of taking stock of like how you feel about things and, looking at your business or your community and being like, oh, there aren't any other people who don't look like me in my Facebook feed, let me think about that. Like, why is that? Like just little things, like really it's just little things. And if we can all just commit to, being more, not being nicer, because it's not about being nice, but, treating people with humanity, like seeing people as humans, as equal to us, as like the same as us, and, treating people from there, like, I think we would all just be doing a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah. I always, I was going to say joke around, but that's not the word. Like I always talk about how like, I don't really feel like celebrities, even though they're like at this like high status place, that they're any different than us. Other than the fact that they just had the opportunity for people, like they just went viral or whatever, and media helps kind of push those initiatives and gets you seen, and that's just kind of part of our culture, which is fine. But they struggle with the same things that we do. They're really not any different, and I always try my best to have people see, like I'm, wherever I am in my life. If I'm not as far along as you think I should be, or if I'm way far ahead, like I still struggle with the same things that you do, no matter where you're at. And we're all really a lot more similar than we think we are. Yeah. So yeah, it just might show up a little bit differently, but it all comes down to the same thing. So, I love that conversation. That was so good. Yeah. I wanted to kind of shift gears just ever so slightly, because I normally in my shows do a Ask Apryl Anything question. And for those of you that have been watching or know about this, I've got a huge bank of questions that people have asked me, either myself or something. Sometimes it can be a good conversation between me and somebody else, and I try to respond to them in my newsletters and in the show and whatnot. But because we're kind of talking about entrepreneurship, and I think that we could really come up with a really great answer together about this question. And for those of you that ever have a question that you want to ask that can be featured on a future show or newsletter or whatever, you can go to www.thecheerfulmind.com/AAA and just submit your question there. Obviously, keep it relatively clean. You can joke around if you want, and just to make it fun. But a lot of the questions thus far have been very, really just asking about how to improve your life or your business, whatever. So I found a business question, and we can kind of talk about this. But just as being kind of innovative with the way that we run our businesses, the question is, what is the best way to get the word out about your business and grow your client base? So it's a little, open, but I think that because we are both creative, some of the things that I was thinking about is, you can always, follow what experts say about how you can grow your business, how you can get clients. And it really comes down to really understanding your target market and really understanding the pains and the desires of those people and really connecting with people. But I think one of the things that I've realized in my journey, I've done a whole bunch of things. For those of you, so Trudi and I had the same business coach, and we've both done similar strategies, I would say. Yep. Trudi's doing a online summit right now, and I did that a couple years ago. And so, you can do some of these tactics to grow your client base, but for me, at least in my opinion, and I'll see, Trudi, what you think about this, is I really think it comes down to really connecting with your audience or your followers or just anybody. And it doesn't necessarily need to be always coming from this place of like, let me throw my business on you, because not everybody needs your services. Not everybody needs your business. So I think being able to be honest about who can benefit most from your help and your services, products, whatever those are, and really seeking out and making connections, whether or not they're people who might be your customers or clients down the road. You never know who they might connect you to that does need your help and services. And so being in that place of service all the time and being able to, understand what do people need, and if it's not something that you can provide, can you connect them to what they need, and just being like a person in service for whatever that is, even and being able to separate yourself from, I need to make money, to like, I just want to serve. And if I make, of course, like, we all have businesses, we need to make money to live and all of that. But really thinking about, how can you authentically serve in your way, and then finding innovative ways to market. I mean, I think that even though I'm doing this dance challenge right now, I'm not doing it for any other reason other than just to have fun this month and really just be passionate about what I care about. And it is, generating like eyes, or like people are curious, like, why are you doing this? Do some more. But it is just allowing me to connect with people that, might just stumble upon a video of me, doing whatever, or a post or whatnot. And it just allows me to connect. And I don't necessarily need to be like selling in every single post or anything like that, but that's just a way to kind of put myself out there. And that's really all you can do. It's all about the visibility, all about your ability to deliver your message to as many people that want to listen, and only delivering to the people who want to listen. And then if at the end of that, people are like, oh, what your service is, I could actually use that, and they connect and want to hire you or pay for your product, then that's great. But I think it's just really just getting yourself out there and finding different ways to be visible is probably the biggest step. And it doesn't need to be the usual like different strategies. While all of those are helpful, it's also you want to do it from an authentic place. So that's my thoughts. Do you have any thoughts, Trudi?
I think everything that you just said, I co-sign on, literally, like the whole thing. And then the last thing that I'll say, and this person didn't say what kind of business that she's, starting, and I think that matters a little bit.
Yeah.
But even for people who are doing online business, I think that they forget about their local, like, in-person community. And so, like, I guess if you're a nomad, like, maybe that doesn't apply to you. But if you're a person who has, like, lived in a community and like maybe you worked, in that community, you have a professional identity, a professional reputation, you have business connections. I think that people forget about how important that group of people is, especially when they start thinking about like online business. I can't tell you. So right now my business is pretty remote. Like I said, I do some stuff with schools, but I can pretty much, I can fly and do that. And, I don't need to be physically somewhere every day. Mm-hmm. I have an office. I'm actually sitting in my office. So I do have a physical location that I like, hang out in and meet in and kind of get away from the craziness of the house. Yeah. But I can't tell you how beneficial my in-person, my local community has meant to growing, even my online presence. I still keep in touch with a lot of the people that I used to work with, when I was working in like the nonprofit sector, right? Like you said, I'm working on this summit. A bunch of the people that I used to work with, they agreed to share my summit with their list. They're not on the summit. They just agreed because they believe in who I am and what I do in my work, and they know that it's going to be great because I produce great work. So don't forget that just because you're kind of shifting industries or building something new, don't forget to bring all of your business connections and your kind of professional network with you on your journey, from just where you are from. Like, there's something about an in-person, like, I know you, we go back community that you just don't get. You just don't get that same kind of community online.
I totally agree. I think that's, and it's something that you can tap into, and even if it's not,
Absolutely.
Like I used to work in higher ed, and I might not be in close contact with some of the, with everybody I used to work with, because there's so many different capacities, and I've gone through so many different jobs.
Right.
But there's still an opportunity to figure out how to engage and leverage those people if they need it, especially if you're doing something that is very individual, like coaching or something like that, because everybody's on, everybody, you just don't know who needs what. And even if it's not in the same capacity, you just never know. So I totally agree with that. That's awesome. All right. So the last thing, since I think we're down to our last 10 minutes, is to share some positive, cheerful news. So every show that we do, we try to bring at least one positive news story that might be in the media, or, if it comes down to it, a heartwarming story, that just inspires and makes people smile. So, I don't know, Trudi, do you want to go first with your story?
Sure, I'll go first. Mine is, silly.
No, nothing is ever silly on this show.
It's meant to be. So I, like I shared, I'm very excited about Black Panther. If anyone is watching and has seen the movie, I would love for you to check out the podcast. Don't listen to the podcast if you haven't seen the movie, because it will spoil it for you. It's called Hey Auntie, AUNTIE. It's on all of the platforms that you can listen to podcasts on. So the headline is Box Office. Black Panther sinks Titanic, tops 1.3 billion. So, Black Panther has been out for a month. I think it came out like 4 weekends ago, and it has earned 1.3 over 1.3 billion, and has passed Titanic. And so I think now that means that it's the second. It's like in the top for highest earning, films of all time, right? And that's adjusted for inflation. So that's just to do that in 4 weeks is like unheard of. Yeah. And people are, I have never known of a movie where people have seen it multiple times in the theater the way that they have seen Black Panther. I've been there multiple times. Yeah. Most of my friends have been there lots of times.
This is shame for Apryl for not having watched it yet.
That is your homework.
That's my homework. You can hold me accountable to that. I will do it. I think it's just been obviously crazy and my husband and I kind of talked about it. He's like, do you want to see this? And I was like, I probably should, but
you're missing everything.
I did see that what's his name was on SNL. I think I fell asleep watching that last night. Right? Was he just on SNL? I was like, oh. Yeah. And it was funny because I did the same thing with the show This Is Us. So I don't remember names of actors or whatever, but the guy who was on SNL, I was like, oh, I'll watch This Is Us. And so that was just kind of what got me oh, let me just watch this. And then I binge watched all 2 seasons of This Is Us. So yeah.
I can't remember that actor's name is escaping me, but Chadwick Boseman was on SNL this weekend. He did one skit as T'Challa in his character as Black Panther. Mm-hmm. So that was also great. Yeah. We will be talking about that on the podcast. We will talk about SNL on the podcast. So, that to me is just the best news.
That's awesome. Great. Yes, it's happy news.
And I'm sorry, let me just say this because I just want to show, in case it's not obvious, I just want to be explicit that this is it's in particularly important because this is a full cast of color, mostly 99% of the cast is a cast of color, the crew, the director, this might be the first movie ever that has been given the resources, that has been made by director of color and like such a big cast of color that has been given the resources to make the movie and to market adequately to do this well.
Yeah.
And so for years, people were saying, oh, people of color don't go to the movies. Like, we can't make more movies because people won't buy them. So this just proves that all of that was a lie.
BS.
Also, Wrinkle of Time did really well in the box office, which is another multicultural cast and a director of women of color. So I think it's not just exciting because I love Black Panther, but because of what it means for the industry, that it's kind of trending in the right direction.
Awesome. I love it. Okay. And let me share my story. So I stumbled upon this. When did this article come out? And we'll put these all in, the show notes and whatnot. This actually came out on March 31st. So, almost 2 weeks ago. But so there's an article on CNN that I found, and this guy named Michael Brown. Where does he live? He lives in Houston. And I have a couple clients in Houston. So hello to my clients in Houston. So he's 17 years old. He applied to 20 of the best universities. And of course I had to see if he applied to Northwestern, which he did. And so of the 20, he got in to every single one with a full ride. So, and just in $260,000 in additional scholarship offers. Like, that's unheard of and amazing. And it's a person of color, which is amazing too.
It is. Yeah.
And so yeah, I think his top 8 choices are Harvard, Princeton, Northwestern, Yale, University of Penn, Stanford, Georgetown, and Vanderbilt. I mean, all excellent schools, and I hope he goes to Northwestern. But it's just amazing to see, and going into the actual article a little bit more, it talks about like his perseverance and the things that like his mom did to support him, to help him to accomplish this, and to know that this is actually possible. It was such an inspiring an inspiring article. And I think you said my family had high expectations and maybe didn't realize how competitive the process was, but he still got into all these schools, and his mother was so dedicated, and how he's urging other people to like dream big, because I think a lot of times we all think small and like, oh, this is all, and this almost made me like upset about like my childhood, because I remember when I was in high school, my guidance counselor was like, I told her, I'm like, I want to go to Northwestern. Like, I was so dead set on it. And she's like, well, maybe you should have some backup schools just in case, because, and I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. That was kind of like a fuel to be like, I'm going to prove you wrong. And I don't know if it was just how my teachers perceived me when I was growing up, but it was like, my freshman year, I was in all regular classes. They didn't want to put me in honors because they didn't feel like I was ready for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe there was stuff that I was doing that just didn't seem right. But by sophomore year, I was in all honors classes. And junior and senior year, I was in all AP classes. And then I got into Northwestern. So it was almost like I was always fighting against this, like, oh, maybe you won't be good enough. And I'm like, I'm going to prove you wrong. And so I totally resonate with this kid, because it's like, don't crush people's dreams, yo. Like, that's not good. And, yes, it's good to kind of consider, backup plans. I had backup plans just in case, because I didn't want to be completely devastated and not go to school at all. But to just kind of like stomp on people's dreams is just, no, I don't like it. So that's my story, and I will put that in the comments. But yeah, Cheerful, amazing. Michael, go to Northwestern. All right, so we've got 2 more minutes. I'm going to start to wrap up. Trudi, this was an amazing conversation. I love everything that we talked about, and we hit on some really serious issues, talked about it in a very positive way. I'm hoping that, anybody who watches this can just really take some really great nuggets from this, and anybody who's planning on being an entrepreneur or who is an entrepreneur to just look at your business in a different light, and how can you give back to the community if that's, part of your mission and your call to serve this world. For those of you who are watching, our next show for Cheerful Conversations is on April 25th, I think, which is my birthday week, and super excited. And so tune in. Obviously, you can watch this in perpetuity on Facebook Live, or on the full archives will be easily accessible on YouTube. And if you want to just get the the episodes dripped to your email every couple weeks, then you can subscribe and all that fun stuff, whatever. I will put Trudy's contact information in the show notes if you're interested in the work that she does. And I think that's it. So thank you so much, Trudy.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I had a really great time. And I'm sad I'm not going to see you at WDS this year, but
I know.
maybe in August, maybe when I'm in Chicago.
Yeah, you'll definitely in August. We'll go over dates and I'll put it in my calendar. And then, just maybe we'll need to like FaceTime me in on a karaoke or something.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, we got to get you there. Okay.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye.
Bye, everyone.